Welcome to Risky Bitness. Today we're going to revisit Super Castlevania IV for the Super Nintendo, one of the most anticipated titles I remember from my childhood. Before we dive in, I would like to take a moment to thank all my subscribers and anyone who has liked, commented on, or shared my videos. You guys are awesome. Thank you for engaging with my videos. Without your support, this would not be possible. If you've been following my videos so far, you're no doubt aware that Castlevania is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. The meeting of fantasy and monster movie elements speaks to my love of both genres, and Super Castlevania IV is a game I remember very fondly. Please see the link in the video description for more Castlevania videos. There's also a link to my SNES playlist there if you love the SNES as much as I do. Essentially a remake of the original Castlevania, the Japanese release was simply called Akumajo Dracula, just like its predecessor. The US version was given the obligatory Super prefix, as many games for this console were at the time. This game came out way back in 1991 and was revolutionary for several reasons, taking full advantage of all the bells and whistles that the 16-bit Super Nintendo could offer. Right away from this gameplay footage, you can see that the improvement in graphics is tremendous. This is miles ahead of the NES, whose best graphics look like a drab, blocky mess next to this much more detailed presentation. The color palette is incredible, and the background and foreground animation work together to really bring the game world to life. The SNES draws multiple foreground and background layers so the details really pop. Super Castlevania IV also has a unique art style. The large sprites have a gritty and severe look, which really lends itself to the gothic aesthetic you'd expect from a game about fighting vampires. There are a few other really amazing visual features here as well, like the ability to move between the foreground and background in the first stage, the scaling golem boss, a rotating stage, and a rolling tunnel. When compared to today's tech, this doesn't seem like much, but at the time it was really impressive, and in the context of 16-bit consoles and computers, it still is. Even the effects used to create the spectral dancers are a 90s technological triumph. The music is absolutely outstanding as well. You'll hear it in the background of this video. It really is a killer soundtrack. The Super Nintendo is famous for its great music, and there's so much depth and complexity to the tracks here that it's really impressive. Of course, what makes a Castlevania game is how the game plays, and this one is still regarded today as one of the best Castlevania games. Some even say it's among the very best on the Super Nintendo, and it's hard to argue. The platforming aspects have been elevated with more responsive controls and new types of challenges like the swinging chandelier. For the first time, Simon can whip in all 8 directions, and if you hold down the Y button, you can use the D-pad to brandish the whip. It does small amounts of damage, but it's incredibly useful to destroy enemy projectiles. This feature was reportedly proposed for the original Castlevania but didn't make the cuts, most likely due to technical limitations. Taking this a step further, the whip can also attach to rings found throughout the game world, which will allow Simon to climb and swing. This opens up all kinds of new platforming and scrolling opportunities, adding a tremendous amount of depth to the cornerstone aspect of the game. You can also walk while crouching, which allows Simon to get through some traps and obstacles. The whip still upgrades the same way, from a leather whip to a short flail to a long flail, and you can pick up various sub-weapons which can be powered up by the elusive double and triple shot items. Don't forget to whip the wall for some of that delicious wall meat. By default, the sub-weapon is now mapped to the right shoulder button. This is very convenient and comfortable, though a little bit awkward at first. While Super Castlevania IV was developed with the idea in mind of being a more relaxed experience, the game is still really hard. Luckily, you have unlimited continues, so you can keep on trying. It's one of the best and most fulfilling challenges on the console. There's also a time limit because of course there is. Even though this is considered a remake of the original, you'll notice right away that something is very different. You're not starting in the entryway of Dracula's castle here. Instead, you're starting way out in the countryside, very far away from Dracula's castle indeed. In this way, Simon's adventure is greatly expanded. You'll have to fight through 5 stages before you even arrive at the castle, and you'll have to clear another 6 stages to complete the game. Luckily, Super Castlevania IV has a password feature, which will allow you to pick up where you left off so you don't have to do this all in one sitting. A laborious task to be sure, especially with all the dying you'll be doing. This game started at development before Castlevania III was finished, and you can see some similarities in the levels. It's a great example of the consistency of the world building of Castlevania. Chronicles, Rondo of Blood, and even Symphony of the Night all respect this consistent world. The level design is top-notch with some incredibly creative levels, like the treasury and the halls. The last few stages feature some of the toughest and most impressive challenges ever in a Castlevania game. There are tons of powerful bosses to defeat, including the first appearance of Slogran Gaimon, and the return of such classics as the Creature. The final battle with Dracula feels a little too familiar at first, but adds some very challenging twists. As a final note, Super Castlevania IV is also notorious for being one of the most censored games on the platform, but I didn't really notice it too much. The US version hides the busts on the topless statues and tones down some, but not all of the gorier set pieces in the game. I don't think you're missing out on much by playing the US version, but if you want to see the game with the artist's original work, then I recommend playing the Japanese version for sure. I hope you've enjoyed this look back at Super Castlevania IV. I know I didn't say anything groundbreaking about this title. It is certainly one of the most popular titles in all of the retro world, and covered, I'm sure, by many YouTubers by now. But nevertheless, I felt the need to give my impression of one of my all-time favorite games. I don't think it's the best Castlevania ever, but it's definitely within the top 5. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and tell me what other games you would like to see me cover. Turn on notifications so you don't miss my future Castlevania videos. I also cover all kinds of different classic games on this channel. If you really want to help the channel grow, please check out the affiliate links in the description. Thank you once again, and until next time, game over.